Welcome, everybody. It was quickly only just watching them as we were coming in just before we started about the different locations people are coming from. So it's lovely to know that you're here and joining us today. I'd like to welcome you to this information session on the Masters of Education in Human Ecology in Everyday Life. And it's wonderful that you're here, and hopefully with a number of you sitting on questions, we'll have all the answers that you need. Before we get started, I'd like to do land acknowledgement. University of British Columbia, Vancouver campus is located on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam people. It's a place and space for learning that the Musqueam people have engaged with for millennia, and we are privileged to be here, or I am privileged to be here to work from such a space as an uninvited guest. For wherever you are, I would like you to take a moment to reflect on whose land that you stand, and give acknowledgement to the first people in that particular space. Agenda, what we're going to take you through. I'm straight up after this, we'll do some introductions, but we're going to give you some program overview and also some information around applications and admissions, and then we'll have time for any questions that you may have that we have not yet addressed. And so I think we can get through this in a timely fashion. So I'd like to acknowledge that Kelvin is here, and he's been the person you've been in contact with so far. Kelvin is the Senior Program Assistant for this program, works magic behind the scene, knows things that I don't know, and I'm very grateful to have him as a colleague to be able to work with. My name is Kerry Rennick, and I coordinate the HEAL program. And I also would like to acknowledge Chrissy Smith, whose name isn't up on the screen, but whose lovely face is there on the side. Sorry, it's on the side for me. I'm not sure where it might be for you. But Chrissy is a graduate of the HEAL program, and so I've invited her along to share with you some of the good, the bad, and probably the ugly bits of engaging with the HEAL program, so that you get a bit of an honest response about what it's like to live in and to survive and thrive through the program. So Chrissy, thank you. It's lovely to have you here. So the Faculty of Education, and particularly the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy, is where I'm located. And we have an incredibly supportive department head for the HEAL program. The EDCP is the only faculty or Department of Faculty of Education that offers anything to do with home economics in the province of BC. It's been a successful program. It's a growing program, and it would be wonderful to know that you would be a part of it as we continue on. The Masters is a 2.5-year program. So people think that it's only 2 years, but it is 2.5. And some people take a little bit longer. Some people are still making families, but life happens, promotions, time out, various different things. But we aim to get you through in 2.5 years. So far, we have had 79 students graduate from this program since 2010. We have currently 16 in the current cohort, and they'll be finishing come April 2025. Was that terrible to talk about that late? It is a unique program. We invite home economics professionals, both those who are teachers, but also working in other areas, as well as allied professionals to join with the program, and those with an interest with what overlaps with home economics, human ecology, family studies, food studies, textile studies. What have I left out, Chrissy? There's a whole lot that's there, isn't there? Going through it, wonderful. The program consists of 30 credits, of which there are 8 core, and we invite you to explore 2 electives that may be online or face-to-face, that allows you to follow some of your interests as you are working through. Applications close at the 1st of March 2024, and that's for a start, all being well, for you in September 2024. And there are further details there, and the hyperlink will take you. But I suspect if you're already here, you're already familiar with that website as well. This is what the program looks like. It is very lockstep. We take you through as a cohort. And so we start with September 2024 with Foundations of Home Economics Education. Then the next term, we move you into Introduction to Curriculum Issues and Theories. And then we move you on into some more specific work around home economics and transformative pedagogies, research methods, reviewing of research in home economics curriculum and pedagogy. And then in the last two, particularly explicitly, we're asking you to work on your graduating paper. And that's a question that a number of you have asked. Is there a thesis or is there a capstone project? Yes, there is a capstone project. And there are some amazing things that the HEAL students actually engage with. And you'll get to see what some of those are through the program. The Masters also has two electives where you can take electives at a 300 or 400 level or at a 500 level. If you are able to do some on campus, you're very welcome to do those. They can be done through summer institutes. And the intention is that you expand your interest and understanding around home economics education in any number of these areas. And that includes Indigenous education, agriculture in the classroom. And we're actually building a suite of courses that are engaging with family and sustainability that are coming online as well. So some of those may be of interest to you. Chrissy, can I throw to you? I'll invite you back for the question and answer session as well. But Chrissy, can you give us a little bit of insight as to your experience of how you found the HEAL program when you went through?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So hi, I'm Chrissy Smith. I'm currently a second-year doctoral student at UBC within home economics education. My research interest and my love is with food and food literacy. But I was also previously in the classroom, the K-12 classroom, for about 8 years before I transitioned into my doctoral studies. And during that time, I did enroll in the HEAL program. And one of the things that, I quite resonated with the HEAL program is that it equipped me with the language to bridge my practice with theory within the classroom. So there was a lot of readings and a dialogue that happened that kind of sparked interest, and actually I took back into the classroom, that following week to play and to grow and to learn more about my own practice within the classroom. Carrie and I recently presented at the THESA conference, which is the Teachers of Home Economics Specialists Association, in October. And, many people were concerned about scheduling and what that looks like and working full time. And truly for me, it really was a management of time, just like every other bubble that we have in our life that we're trying to juggle. And I knew that my Friday lessons were set, so Thursday nights were time for me to read, engage in dialogue. The courses are completely online, and that dialogue could happen on your own time, your own pace. Whenever you wanted to post, someone else would respond. And Carrie can speak to more of the courses and the course structure. But in terms of that flexibility of doing work, life, and school at the same time. And so I truly want to reiterate the balance that it did provide. And then the elective courses being in person was incredible. And being able to engage with people on campus. But again, online, I was connecting with people across Canada. There's an international student, and you're seeing your interests and your contexts translated into other people's contexts. And so that's truly a strength of the HEAL program. The good, the bad, and the ugly, the balancing, you're balancing. And so when to manage your time with that dialogue. However, I found it was something that I wanted to do and wanted to engage with. And the instructors within the HEAL program were incredibly supportive in tailoring your journey and your interests. And so the amazing thing about home economics education is that it is quite interdisciplinary. So even though my interest was in food studies and food literacy, I was engaging with people who were into textiles. There were elementary elementary school teachers who were wanting to focus on school gardens. There were individuals working with Indigenous ways of knowing, teacher burnout. So truly, it's a holistic program in which we engage with the materials, the research, the projects, and really you get what you get out of it what you put into it, and it truly helped kind of rethink about how I teach in the classroom. And it was a stepping stone to come back into graduate studies. So if that's not like a haha, like a push for this program, then absolutely. One thing that I remember from the THESA conference, we had someone in our session worried about writing. And the thing about the program is that it helps you develop your skills in whichever way that you wish. And I personally struggle with writing anxiety, and that's something that I truly am like I was telling the individuals, like, don't worry about it. Like in terms of grasping writing a research paper, or it truly pertains to you and your interests. And I found I did a lot of narrative writing. It was very reflective of what I was doing in the classroom. And so that storytelling came out in my projects, my presentations. So I hope that gives you a little bit of nuance into the program. And once we hit the Q&A session, I know Carrie has some questions that she throws at me, and again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm here available in the session and outside of the session as well, but it truly was an eye-opening experience that allowed me to pause and reflect on how I do engage with my practice, and that again has fueled me into further graduate studies. But yeah, looking forward to engaging with you in the chat as well.
Thank you, Chrissy. Kevin, can I throw to you? Whoops. For some reason it's going to beep at me. There we go. Can I throw to you to take us through some of the information about making applications and for the program?
Of course. Yeah, so we're now going to go through various admission and application related info. So firstly, for application requirements, all students must meet the admission and application requirements of both the Faculty of Graduate Studies and the program. And these include, one, a minimum of 2 years of engagement within schools, communities, business, government, non-government organizations, and other education-oriented environments. Also, a 4-year undergraduate degree with sufficient standing. So that is an average within the B+ range. That's roughly 76% at UBC for all senior level coursework or an equivalent to that. Please note that this is not a hard cutoff point. As shown on the slide, if your GPA does not meet the above criteria, let's say you're a few percentages off, the department may submit a quote unquote special case rationale to recommend you for admission if the rest of your application is considered to be strong enough. And it will be folks like Carrie who would be writing your special case rationale. Also, we would require 3 letters of recommendation. So these are your reference letters from educators, supervisors, colleagues, or clients that can speak to your capability and ability to complete the program and your interest in it. Additionally, you're going to ask to submit a resume/CV. Please note that this is not an employment resume. This is a resume that is supposed to give staff and the admission committee a full overview of your capabilities and achievements. So there is no need to be brief like some employment resumes. please take your time to make it as long and detailed as needed be. Also, you're going to be asked to submit a statement of intent. This maximum 600 words of your home economic experience, professional goals, and the anticipated benefit of your involvement in the program. And this statement of intent is also where you'll be making your case. Let's say if your grades are not quite up to par and you require a special case rationale, this is where you make your case as to why overall your application is still strong. And you'll also be asked to have ready scanned copies of all official transcripts and degree certificate. So additionally, there is an English language assessment for a lot of people who are applying. So applicants from a university outside of Canada, where English is not the primary language of instruction, must provide results of an English language proficiency exam as part of your application. The test must have been taken within the last 24 months at the time of submission. You can check out the link right there for the specific test and scores required. As for when you need to complete the English test, the scores must be available when you press submit. It's not something where you submit your application and then you upload your scores retroactively. You cannot do that. Regarding the application procedure, it is an online application. It cannot be done in person, and if you show up at the department office, we cannot handle the application for you physically. You simply navigate to grad.ubc.ca/apply/online/. You'll be clicking apply online. Read the instructions as shown and either log in with your CWL or create a CWL if you've never attended UBC. For those of you who are not current or previous UBC students, a CWL is basically your student account for anything UBC online related. Once you're logged in the degree program section, you have to type in the 4-character cohort designation of HEE8. This information is on the program website as well. If you forget the cohort code, remember it's HEE8. You want to make sure that you're applying for the right graduate program and not another one by mistake. That has happened before.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Please note that this is a part-time professional cohort and is different than the regular on-campus program. Select the program and click apply and fill out the rest of the application as shown. The part 2 of the process would be supporting various documents. Please have the following ready to upload when you apply. These include official transcripts, both for Canadian transcripts and for international transcripts. You'll likely be asked to also upload your degree or program certificate as well. You'll be asked to upload, the 3 reference letters, your 600-word statement of intent, your resume, and your English proficiency test scores, if applicable. Please note that when you are actually admitted into the program, you have to provide official field transcripts, with the exception of UBC to the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. So basically, when you're applying, you're allowed to submit scan. However, once you have been accepted into the program, you have to provide official transcript. Regarding the upload of your reference letters, so when adding them to your application, you'll be asked whether they are professional or academic references. We consider academic references as people who know you in an academic capacity, so former professors or instructors. And professional references would be those who have supervise you in a work setting. So maybe a principal, vice principal, or other non-educational supervisors. You are strongly encouraged to submit electronic letters of reference. So what you do here is fill in the email addresses of your 3 referees when completing your online application. So you need their email address, references with 3 web-based email addresses. So if your referee's email address is Gmail or Hotmail, they'll receive a link to the paper reference form, which must be mailed to our office. Anyways, once you submit and pay for your online application, your referees will automatically receive an email with a link and instructions for completing the electronic reference. So they're going to receive a link where they can either type out their references or upload a Word or PDF document. All right. So for your referees who has a Gmail, Hotmail, or a quote unquote generic email address, the reference letter must be mailed to us, and it's very important that on the letter that the reference is coming in, within the reference letter, they have to say this is for HEE8, and on the envelope where it is sealed, where the tape would be, they have to sign their name over it. This is to ensure that there's no fraud or application dishonesty going on. So, as I've just said, for those of you choosing to submit your paper references, this is the mailing address that you'd be mailing it to. Please kindly ensure that you indicate that this is for the HEE8 graduate cohort, and that you will be sending this to the Professional Development and Community Engagement Office. This is very important because UBC has many departments that handle transcripts and reference letters, and it's not uncommon for things to be sent physically to the wrong address. So HEE8 graduate cohort for the Professional Development and Community Engagement Office at 1304-2125 Main Mall. Yeah. So regarding the actual application deadlines, the application is currently open and accepting of applications, so you can apply as early as today, right now. And the application deadline is March 1st, 2024. This includes the submission of all supporting documents by that point. Under very specific cases, extensions might be given, but you have to notice us in advance. Regarding the finances and tuition, there is a difference in cost between domestic and international applicants. The tuition is assessed as an annual program fee, which is divided into 3 equal installments due at the beginning of each term, which is September, January, and May. Is payable over a minimum of 8 installments, so that's 1 for each term of your program. And the tuition is charged as a whole program fee and is not assessed on a per credit basis. Tuition may be raised up to 2% annually, and if it does happen, it will be announced in the spring of each year. Please note that since this program is considered a part-time program, it is not eligible for student loans or other types of funding. However, obviously, if you're able to secure third-party funding yourself, that is on your end and that is okay. Regarding student fees are charged in addition to tuition and vary from term to term. You'll be asked to budget for approximately $800 to $900 per winter term. there are certain fees that you can opt out of. One is the medical/dental plan. That's approximately $338 per year, charged in September only. You're able to opt out of that if you wish. There's also the U-Pass, which is a public transit pass in Vancouver for those of you who do not reside here, and is approximately $180 per term. However, there's only opt-out available if you live outside of the Greater Vancouver area. Fees are subject to change annually, and only information in the UBC calendar is official. So everything on this slide specifically is for reference only and is subject to change. And additionally, this is applicable for teachers in the Vancouver Lower Mainland who have taken UBC students in their classrooms as student teachers. You might be able to claim a quote-unquote course credit, basically. So if this applies to you, please contact the Teacher Education Office at teacher.ed@ubc.ca. This process is handled by the CEO office, and it's separate from the PDC office. So make sure you send it the right way. And that is basically the overview of the application and admission process and requirements. Please note that everything that was shown on the slides in this info session right here is also available on the program webpage and website. So now's the time for any additional questions or answers that you folks might have. If you have questions related to the actual program content for Carrie, you may ask it now as well.
Kelvin, I'm going to stop sharing so that we're not looking at small tiles.
Of course.
Well, maybe we still are looking at small tiles, I don't know, but perhaps not so so distracted. I think there are things that have been covered that have been within the questions that folk sent in as they were registering for this session. One of the questions, is there a thesis or a capstone? I think we've covered that there is a capstone, so that one is there. One question is, could this translate into primary education? And I seem to remember Chrissy talking about the fact that some of her colleagues were actually in elementary or primary education. Sorry, I come from Australia, so we talk about primary education, not elementary. So yes, it does work across K to 12. And if someone is particularly interested in early childhood, I'm sure that there are many things that we could do to accommodate that as well, if there's an interested in that. Okay, let me go through. A couple of people have asked what the acceptance rate is for the program. At the moment, we have got one of the largest cohorts running, which is 18 students. We have gone down as low as 12 or 13, but my experience has been that the only applicants that we say thank you but no to are those that do not meet absolute minimum requirements for the program in a number of different areas, not just a one-off. As Kelvin indicated, some of us didn't do particularly well on our undergraduate programs. We were busy doing other things. And so perhaps the grades weren't quite a B+ that is nominally required at this stage. Assuming that other things are coming together, and maybe 15 or 20 years ago it was, we recognise that life goes on and we grow and we develop in lots of different ways. But if there's a weak statement of intent, if there's difficulties with low levels of GPA and so forth, then it's likely that that's going to be the combination while someone is not offered a place, as opposed to we've got 20 applicants, we only have 18 places. That's not the way we run it all. We're more than happy to accept as many eligible students as what we possibly can. Antonetta, there's a question there. Since tuition is paid per term instead of per course, can more courses be taken? For instance, more electives? The answer to that is yes, you may. However, in the middle of all of that, our priority is to get you through and to be successful. And so, yes, while you are enrolled in the program, you may take on more than the 30 credits. However, I will also be concerned to make sure that you are being successful while you have your, shall I say, grazing the banquet. We also want to make sure that you are successful in what you're engaging with as well. So we can chat through any number of things. Kelvin, you have a hand up.
Yes, and just to add to Carrie's point, correct me if I'm wrong, regarding electives, you may apply for electives from other universities as well under the WDA. We call it the Western Dean's Agreement.
Correct.
So that is definitely possible. However, before you take the course, it has to be approved by the graduate school first. And that process can take a while. So if you are planning to take an elective at another institute or university, please make sure to send your request form to us very early in advance, because you cannot take the course and then retroactively apply for the approval. If you do that, it is very likely that your course won't be approved at all, and that would be a big waste of money on your behalf.
Chrissy.
Just throwing on my student hat here and to elaborate on the question, you know, part of the MEd program is to encourage practicing professionals to explore their interests. And so in balancing your coursework, there are quite a few online courses and in-person courses that are offered during the May to August semester. And so I actively encourage you to look at all the electives, see what you're interested in. But the in-person courses usually run in July and August for about a week. And so if you're outside of UBC Vancouver, there are courses that are in person that are about a week long, but Agriculture in the Classroom runs out of Abbotsford, BC, in the Fraser Valley. So in thinking about your coursework and balancing life and work and school, there are many opportunities for you to take the electives during the warmer weather seasons here in British Columbia, and a great way to meet some of your cohort in person. You know your schedules, you know your life, but that's in part of UBC in supporting their students, like Carrie said, in hoping that you are successful, that these courses are offered during times in which you have access to them and maybe not crunching for report card season or times. And I did mention, primary elementary school education, but I also had a person in my cohort who is a professional home economist from Alberta. And it was great to chat with them about their perspective. So even if it is you are not in the K-12 system, there are many opportunities to connect with people in the community and community experience. And correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, someone in the THESA conference, community experience is experience in working. You don't have to have K-12 experience specifically. And so that's something that is quite amazing about being within a home economics major.
Indeed. Now, Kevin's also put in the chat that some people think a master's program will give you a teaching qualification. This one does not. So you can come in, you can learn more about education, particularly home economics, but it will not give you a teaching credential. So just be aware of that. Steph had a comment there that she's got lots of experience, but she's not a qualified home economist. My first thing to say is I'm sorry, but we'll get you across, we'll get you involved with home economics. That's not a problem. We don't have an expectation that you must have an undergraduate qualification in home economics. However, this program is unapologetically about home economics. So if you're coming in without a home economics background, then this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to build some understandings and further information about home economics, and that will be expected throughout it, but that doesn't mean it may not apply to the area of work or specialisation that already is your area of work already. So I'm hoping that that helps from that point of view. I'm just quickly trying to go through, wow, lots of questions coming up. Can previous studies in fashion, diploma in fashion, be done as credit? And I also think someone also asked about their diploma for home economics as well. If you've done some previous study in no more than 5 years' time, you can actually claim those as electives, as long as you have not already used those to claim a qualification. So if you've just engaged in some study, you've just engaged in one course or two courses, but you haven't done any other larger program, and they're no more than 5 years old, yes, you can have a conversation with me via email or phone or other method, and we can discuss it if it does fit in with it. Most of the time I say yes, because I want to support you. So yes, always can have that conversation. However, it's important that we go back to Kelvin's point that this will not impact on your installments. Your enrollment into the HEAL program is a set price, if you will, for want of a better way of describing it. It does modify if there is a price hike, but essentially you're paying for coming into the program, not for the number of credits that you study. So while you may have some electives that you can use that you've done previously, it will not reduce the total price for your program. So I am sorry about that, but that's kind of the game rules that we're playing on from there. Okay, Crystal's got a question. I feel like I'm answering Monday, mid-morning radio program. Crystal's got that in January of 2027. Oh, isn't that terrible? Everyone's working on the graduating party. Is that what we're doing, or are there other coursework assigned? No, that's what you are doing. You're coming to the end of your program. You're coming around to the final lap, and we want you focused in on that and getting it done. It doesn't sound like it's very much, but can I throw to Chrissy? Did you need all of that time, Chrissy?
Yes, I did. And I graduated in 2021, and so that was me going back into the classroom post-COVID. So I actually did extend my EDCP 590 into the summer, and so that was an extra payment on top, but just due to the nature, that's the balance of life, work, and school. And maybe that's the asterisk of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I personally needed that extra time, because teaching during the 2020-2021 year was such a unique experience, and in balancing everything that was going on, especially as my district was in the quarter system. And just to go back into Crystal's question, the EDCP 590 that's in the January course, it's not you wandering out on your own. There is support. And so the previous course, the Master Seminar in Home Economics Education, the 501 course, you've been building up for about 2 years of your interest and the questions that you have, and you are set up in a way that is structured in completing that capstone project during that time. So it's not saying January 1st you start your paper and April 30th you have finished your paper. It is a culmination of your knowledge that you have built over time. And there are some people in the THESA conference who are kind of concerned about that, and you are not alone. You're not alone. Your cohort's going through the same process, and in working your way through the coursework, it is like the first course is Foundations of Home Economics Education, and it is quite the foundation, and you're building up on that and exploring your own interests. And so in the May course, I feel like I'm reliving the courses. I love it. The May course, you kind of develop your own proposal. And so it's not like, again, it's not January 1st. Apologies, I just got a phone call, and so I might have lost connection. But in terms of, you are not, it is structured in a way that you are building on your previous knowledge, and you are supported in the dialogue, in the discussion posts, through your course instructor, to really flesh out your interests and your final paper. An example of a graduating paper.
Wow. Okay. Lots of different ones that are there. How long is a piece of string is really, it depends in lots of ways. But the sorts of examples of things that people have written about vary. One that was someone who actually walked from the Canadian border along the west coast of the US down to the Mexican border, and actually kept a diary on the way through, but reflected on their learning during the HEAL program through the previous years, and melded something very, very beautiful together. And having never done that walk, and being very, very new to Canada at that time, or certainly to the west coast of North America, I found it absolutely amazing, the sorts of things and observations, but how it was linked into home economics education. Somebody else lives in Saskatchewan, and very, very strong farming background. And so her interest was trying to build coursework that enabled students in secondary schools to have a better appreciation of farmers' life, and what did it mean to contribute to the food supply. So she interviewed family members, neighbours, and so forth, and developed up a program, a coursework. Now, there was some literature that was framing it, but essentially the body of it was actually this course that was being proposed for middle to senior secondary. Chrissy, do you want to describe what you did on your graduating project?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, my interest is within food literacy. And so truly, in my experience as a home economics educator within the classroom, I always got this notion of, oh, it's just home ec, and quite literally the hand movement. Oh, it's just foods. It's just cooking. All we do is cook. And yeah, that's a facet of it where we do engage with demonstrations and labs and projects. But so my interest was about the language that people use, outside the profession and within the profession, but what did that mean for my own personal practice? And so I actually explored the three facets of food literacy, of operational, cultural, and critical, and using student examples of what I did in the classroom to engage students with their own cultural backgrounds, with a critical lens, and how food studies is more than just cooking, because there is this notion of stitching and stirring within home economics, and the perception of how home economics is antiquated. And so I think what was very evident with the COVID-19 pandemic is home economics came to the forefront because people were back into their homes, and being in their homes and providing within their homes. There was a lot of social inequity that came out, that was there, but came to the forefront. And so, our grocery store workers were frontline workers. And so there was a lot of dialogue and discussion during that time of, what is food literacy? Where does our food come from? And engaging with this dialogue with students. And so, there is that asterisk of, it was informal discussions that I had with my students, so there was no need for an ethics application because it was a reflection on my own practice. And so I did little stories, I did little vignettes of, Miss Smith within the classroom, and I had images of student work. So hopefully that can provide some insight of the varied nuances that you can bring your own practice in. And I think one of the students did they did a weaving project. A past Heal student analyzed a curriculum. They've developed curriculum documents as a teaching chef. So there's a wide variety of things that it is truly your interest in what you are connecting with your own practice. And I'm happy to delve into more questions as well.
One of the other questions that came in earlier was what the experience is like in the courses, individual courses. And, if it's online, how much do we have to be together? How much is synchronous? How much is asynchronous? And to some extent, that will depend a little bit about what the instructor is wanting to do. But the general form and the way in which it works is it tends to be some readings each week. You put in a response, and then by the end of the week, could you go in and please respond to one or two other people? It's a little bit repetitive, but if you think about it, is that we're not together, it would take the place of a class discussion. And so how do you engage with people in your classroom and hear what they've got to say and how they're thinking about things when we're not all in the same space in the same time? So those discussions become really important. And so it's not just that you get to read what other people are doing, but people get to read a little bit about what you're about. If you're a bit like me, I don't like to be the first person who puts things up. There are some people who are eager beavers and are up there first every time. I like to take a little bit of time and linger with it and then sort of think about, am I in the right space to do it? And I must admit, being online with those discussions allows for those introverts and extroverts to be able to work a little bit at their own pace. How much time do you need to do? Normally, a graduate class would be timetabled face-to-face 3 hours a week. And then there's an expectation of at least 3 hours outside the class that you would engage with reading, or if you're starting to prepare your assignments. So given that you don't have 3 hours face-to-face, I think it's reasonable to think you should be setting aside 3 to 4 hours a week. Does it have to be in one block? Well, that's what your life is like. You might be better an hour one night where you do reading, another hour where you do some writing, and then another 2 hours where you dedicate to some other things. I don't know what your life is like, but there's an expectation that you're producing things in particular timeframes. How you manage that, you're adults, you're able to work your way through those things. Some people open up each week. A couple of weeks ahead, I open up the whole course. So when I'm with you, you'll see the whole thing from week 1 to week 12. Other people might just set up module 1, and that might be the first 3 or 4 weeks, and let's get you through that, and then open up subsequent ones after it. So what that means is if you are going gangbusters, if you want to go ahead, if you really want to push ahead, yeah, you can do that if that's the way in which you work and need to do. But you still need to come back and engage with your class colleagues as well. You can't just charge on ahead and just plow through without any connection with them. Some of the assignments are your own, you're doing solo, and some of them you need to do with a partner or with 2 other people. And so you do need to work in and around those sorts of obligations. I'm teaching the course this term. Last Saturday, we had 9 presentations from 9:30 through to 12:30, and it was amazing. It was absolutely phenomenal, but people had worked very, very hard with their partner to be able to get it up, and we had a great morning together. Sounds horrible to think that number over a morning, but there was lots of joy, lots of celebration, lots of really interesting stuff, and you could hear so much passion as people were engaging in different areas of their presentation. So some of that will be dependent on, as always, what the instructor would like you to engage with. I don't necessarily have any more questions that have come through from the previous ones. And Tony's got one about references. All of the references have to be professional. Do they all need to be supervisory? We've had people that have written references that are colleagues in the sense that they are both, if you like, in a K-12 school, teaching at the same level, similar levels of experience that they've been able to. I think going back to Kelvin's point about they have to be able to talk to certain points about you, and one of them being about the potential that you have about being successful in the program, but also what the potential is for you to learn and grow through the program. If you've already got everything sorted now, this program isn't for you. If you're going to come into the program, yes, we're going to take some of your money. I'm sorry about that. But also there should be some professional growth. You should be different at the end of the program, other than just being less some of your money, but there should be some other elements to you, your personality and your professional life that this program has added to. And for Chrissy, she's come into a doctoral program, which she had no intention. She thought was going to be that sort of journey. And Chrissy, having been through the HEAL program, and knowing you and your colleagues that went through the same cohort, do you think people were different to when they started?
Absolutely. And you know, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head of, you know, entering the program and being open and vulnerable in trying these new experiences. I am glad I'm not the same person at the end of my program. You know, there's so many different nuances that I was able to take back into my classroom, and even through the COVID-19 pandemic and what that meant for transformative pedagogy and challenging the current systems that we have in place. And it really made me pause and reflect on my own experiences and my position within the classroom, and how we connect. You know, again, food is my love language, but how we connect people through food. And you know, I think one of the things about the HEAL program that it is so interdisciplinary. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, it's like you get what you put into it. However, it really helps you understand your own passion through different lenses. And so in understanding, you know, food through different lenses that a textiles person provided, or Indigenous ways of knowing, there's so much rich dialogue in which you can connect with other people that, yes, you can get in in-person courses, but, you know, it's very difficult to get to UBC at 4:30 on a Tuesday night. And so being able to connect across the city, the province, the country, and even now globally, truly has opened my eyes to home economics education and what that looks like in different contexts.
Wow, there's whole lots of things coming in. All right, Antonia, I'm glad that you're excited by it. I hope you continue to be, and you just don't cool off after this session. So that would be lovely. Steph, much of the program synchronous, asynchronous, absolutely right. The only thing, well, not the only thing, the main thing that you need to think about is each course is offered in particular terms, and that's on that table that I presented earlier, and it's what's showing on the PDCE website under the schedule. So those courses are done in order, but how it's run within those courses is largely asynchronous. And so whilst you're locked into a course at a particular term, how you engage with it during the term is much more flexible for you in terms of your life and your commitments that you have outside study. The thing is, however, is that the courses are put up in a way to allow you to build towards your graduating project. So in fact, the first year is about home economics, a bit of the foundation, but also exploring home economics in lots of different ways and what it might mean for our practices. But then the second year is actually starting to focus in on the research and starting to build up things to move you towards your graduating project. And because of that, I think we've been very, very successful with students going through the program in that, yes, it's structured, but we're not so tight about the way in which it's done. But at the same time, it's always about building step one, step two, and building and supporting you to get to your graduating project. And a number of people have in this department have read graduating projects from HEAL students, and they're incredibly impressed with them. I'm not surprised, because I know we have some amazing people who work in the area, but it's incredibly gratifying that other people read some graduating projects and go, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And we go, of course it is. Not surprising from that point of view. How are we going, everyone? Are we answering your questions? Are we hitting the right mark for you? because I'm looking at the time with 2 minutes to go. So I'm going to do last call for questions. If you have other questions, Kelvin can talk about admissions and applications. That's his area of expertise. That's his great support for this program. I can talk about the program and to some extent the application process in the sense about how we go through it and what we're looking for through that sort of process. But really, I'm post the acceptance of people into it. But the sorts of questions that people are asking, the concerns, will I fit, won't I fit, are not the sorts of things that would be the sort of thing that you would exclude you from the program, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping that that is useful for you. Thank you, Antonetta. We appreciate it. Kelvin.